Hi, guys, and welcome back to the podcast. I'm your host, Indira, and today I'm joined by the phenomenal, newly crowned European Under 23 cross country champion, Phoebe Anderson. Phoebe's been out grinding hard in the States at Columbia University for the past few years, and in this episode, she joins us to share her experience so far, what it's been like becoming European champion, what's made her past year so significant from a performance point of view, and also how she's found happiness and balance within the sport. We cover a lot of interesting and important topics in this episode, so definitely a lot to think about and a lot to take away from it. Okay, as always, if you've been enjoying the podcast, please be sure to give it a rating and consider hitting the follow button. This really helps give credibility to the podcast so I can keep bringing you guys the guests you want to hear from. Also, exciting news, today is a video podcast episode. Nothing fancy, it's all free, all done over Zoom, but hope you guys enjoy and do let me know your thoughts on videos. Hi, Phoebe, how are you? And welcome to the podcast.
I'm great. Thank you so much for having me. It's such a treat. I love listening to these podcasts. It's always very relaxing and you have a relaxing voice. So I'm
Oh,
excited for our chat.
Thank you so much. And yeah, I mean, it's always great to be joined by great athletes and great people. So definitely looking forward to it as well. And are you in the States or UK? Where are you at the moment?
So I'm actually currently in Dahlstrom in South Africa. So I was here for my to see my dad's family in Cape Town. And I thought, you know what? Everyone goes to Dahlstrom. Why not just check it out, try it out for 2 weeks, and then go to Potch for 2 weeks? But I'm currently navigating the whole like training group situation. I failed my driving test 3 times, so I can't drive. So I'm renting a bike, cycling around the place. So it's a bit crazy, but I'm excited for this new challenge, and hopefully it'll make me a better runner.
Oh no, that's really cool. Doubling with the heat training camps. Love that. And
Hmm.
yeah, driving tests. Yeah, been there kind of.
Yeah,
So yeah, I feel you, at least you tried.
it's rough.
So let's kick things off kind of, your recent success, European under 23 cross country champion. Where's your head at?
Yeah, it was a great day. Honestly, I had so many exams the week after that I kind of was like, okay, on to the next thing. And then it wasn't until I got like a week off my exams and I could actually spend time with my friends that I could actually like breathe it in and experience and be like grateful for the whole year that I had leading up to that. Because this is like a sub story, but wasn't selected the year before. And I remember just like I just remember saying, well, I'm just gonna have to win it next year. And honestly, it was a joke. I never thought that would actually happen. But I think that just like fueled everything in training and the whole preparation. I just thought, whatever happens, I'm going to make it next year, and I'm going to make sure that they can't not select me. Like I have to be running so well consistently that I'm selected, and then I can run well at Europeans. So I'm really grateful it all like fell into place. And then yeah, I'm excited for the next challenge now.
Yeah, no, that's really cool to hear. And that's really interesting you touch on selection and the antics going on there because, yeah, of course, you're out in the NCAA. It's difficult to compare sometimes, and that's definitely something we should dive into. But first things first, do you want to walk us through then the immediate prep leading into the Europeans? And then after that, we can talk about the race itself.
Hmm. Yeah, I think the biggest thing was NCAs did not go to plan. I had a terrible start, and then this is the most stupid excuse, but I was so cold. Like I don't usually get that cold, but I just being mid race, I was like my arms are cold. I just felt so stiff, and I was like, this is such an embarrassing reason to have a bad race. So I was all American there, and obviously that was always the like C goal, but the B goal was to be like top 20, and then like the A goal would be top 15. So I just didn't hit those marks. And I think after that, I was like, okay, the season's not over. I've got to keep things together, keep things ticking over, and then aim for Europeans. And obviously, there's that period of like Thanksgiving where everyone's going home, and my sister came to visit. So obviously, she wants to do so much around New York. And I was thinking, oh my gosh, this is like a distraction. Like, this isn't good, my training. And it was actually amazing because it brought this like sense of calm. And I had like a great Thanksgiving at my friend's house upstate. So I guess it kind of just made me realize that it's months of work. Like even the 2 weeks leading up to it obviously are important. But I think I just had to lean into like the consistent training I'd had and then just be like, okay, I'm on the taper now. Travel's not gonna be perfect because I traveled like the Thursday night before the race and then I had to fly from New York to London and London to Antalya. So I just knew like it wasn't going to be perfect. And my friend Maggie Bennett, her dad's coach Bennett on Instagram, he's very inspirational, and he does this video that's like, you don't have to be perfect to be extraordinary because your preparation wasn't perfect. So I always think of that now.
Love that. You don't have to be perfect to be extraordinary. And yeah, I think you've absolutely hit the nail on the head with the hammer, or however the saying goes, because that is so true. Life's never going to be perfect. Perfection doesn't exist. And yeah, it's
Mhm.
so important to be in a good place mentally. And it sounds like, having that experience, having a bit of downtime, being in a good place meant that the race got underway really well. And would you say that
Mhm.
standing on the start line, perhaps you felt that calmness still with you, or kind of how were the
Mhm.
nerves at that point?
Yeah, definitely. I think what I'd always say to people is think of mantras, and I always tell my team I always think of the weirdest mantras, and then because then when the race, then you start getting oxygen out of your brain and you can't think anymore. You just got to think of those words. And I think I was just thinking the whole time of okay, if you're there with a lap to go, like you have a chance, so just stay up there for as long as you can. It's like a very simple race plan, just like stay up there, and then if you feel good, then just go for it. And I honestly, I would laugh. Like my coach in the US was saying, oh, so do you think you could win? I said, oh, absolutely not. Definitely not. I'm just going for a medal. Like I just really wanted the bronze. I just really wanted that. And then I was just surprised over the last barrier. So it just shows you that if you stay up in contention for as long as you can always surprise yourself.
Yeah, definitely. Absolutely love that. And talking in terms of, I guess, sort of mindset and mindset of a champion, then do you want to run us through the race, the thoughts going through your mind, and also your reflections around racing against a field that you're not necessarily familiar with, being out in the States and
Mhm.
everything?
Yeah, I guess it was a lot easier because it was so much smaller. So the gun goes off and you think, oh, I'm gonna have to get through those people. When it was like, oh no, it's so small, and we all just like shrink together. And I think it was again like staying calm. I just thought, okay, stay at the front. Like I sat behind Mia and was like, I'm just gonna whatever pace it is, even if it feels really slow, I know there'll be a move eventually. So just stay calm until that move is made.
Nice. No, I love that. And was there a point in which you knew you had it in the bag?
No, not at all. Because you see those videos of people celebrating and they get beaten, and I was like, I never want that to be me. So I was just like, go for the line. I'm sure they're just there. I'm sure they're just there. And then I think in the video, I almost missed the line. Like I think I was going way too far right, and then suddenly I was like, oh my gosh, the codes are just there. So then I was like, oh, and then I always feel weird, like if you do a celebration because it's kind of like you've planned it, and obviously I hadn't planned to win, so it was just I just put my hands up, and then they always catch me on the downstep. I mean, when I say they always do, it was like the Ivy League championships that I won like a month before that. And again, everyone was like, "Are you gonna plan your celebration?" And you're like, "No," because like you cannot take anything for granted in the sport. Like it's like you can have a great day, you can have a really bad day. So it's like in my head, I've never been someone that's like thinking about the end. I just have to think about getting to that line, and then I can it's a relief and relax from then.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's a great mindset. And yeah, so many people sort of comment around the importance of focusing on the moment and the now and not overthinking the future, not thinking too far
Mhm.
in advance. And so I guess when that moment did come for you, you break the tape as a European champion. What was the initial kind of thoughts going through your mind?
I think in like a devious way, it felt like I'd taken something from someone else. Like it didn't feel like it was mine. That sounds really deep, but I was kind of like, this this isn't how like it should have been. I just was so shocked. And then I guess I just think, oh wow, like we all work so hard and it's amazing how on the day it just shapes up to that final over that last barrier. Like you can overthink all of these things in your preparation, but really it's about I was like, I want this. Like I just told myself with a kilometer to go, like I didn't do all this travel and I don't know, emit all this carbon for nothing. Which is like I feel like I sacrificed so many of my kind of values and I'm not pursuing other things I'm interested in because I want to do as well as I can at this right now. So I was like, okay, I'm not making all these kind of choices to then just not giving my all. So I was like, you know what? If I give my all and then get third, that's still great. So I think I'm excited to use that energy into my next races and just kind of be more fearless. And now I have like, I guess nothing to lose. And now I'm like racing for myself over the next few months. So it's like I fully just want to give it my absolute all and not hold back.
No, it's really interesting that you say that. And, it's great, I think, how you mention the trade-offs between, things that you're giving up or, having made a
Hmm.
difficult journey and that giving you that extra motivation, that extra kind of desire, because sometimes that's
Hmm.
needed, to fully push for these things. And yeah, I think as well, it's really interesting how you mentioned that the next few months you'll be racing for yourself. Does that mean there's been some kind of change in mindset or?
Yeah, I think it's even though it's just been like a month, it's definitely different. It's like heading to the track by myself, and it's like I miss being with the team and you do movement prep and you kind of forget that you're working out. You're just kind of going through the motions of your friends, chatting about their day, and then you get there and you work out, and it's I don't know, it just feels so much smoother when you're by yourself. I'm just all I can think about is like, okay, I've got to hit these times. Like, how's this going to feel? So it's definitely going to be a shift, and I'm enjoying like making new friends and building that into my routine of like finding someone to warm up with or getting my sister to come out to the track. So I guess it's like a different mindset. I know that it's like nothing's permanent, and this isn't going to be permanent. I'm going to start my masters in August, and then I'll be on a great team again. So yeah, it's definitely a different stage of my career, but I'm excited for the changes.
Okay, no, that's really cool to hear. And yeah, we'll definitely speak more around kind of the experience in terms of, being out in the States, the break you're currently on, or the transition period, let's call it. But before we move on to that, I kind of want to pick up on, I guess, what you were slightly maybe alluding to, having a bit of perhaps imposter syndrome potentially, or also maybe just kind of the realization that it's not that deep at the end of the day. Perhaps it sounds like maybe that's some of what you're talking about. Can you expand around that a little bit?
Yeah, I guess owning it and being like, okay, like it's anyone's race, like it's anyone's game. Like I don't think you should ever like put yourself in a category because I remember my mum would like drive me to a race and she'd say, "Oh, so what's the goal?" And I'd say, "I don't know, I just want to run my best," because it takes the pressure off it. It's just like, oh, whatever. And I think it's just about not being afraid to just own it and be like, "Yeah, I want to win." And I just love. There's some people on my team, and I've met people along the way that just say, "Yeah, it's my race. Like I'm going to win it," and I love that energy. And honestly, I don't think it's anyone could be too cocky. Like people say, "Oh, is Jakob Ingebrigtsen good for the sport?" And I'm like, absolutely. Like I think just back yourself and just say that's my goal, and I want, and that's also long term. It's not just short term. Oh, tomorrow I want to win. It's like, okay, yeah, in a year's time, that's the team I want to make. And I think once you've spoken to the universe, that like runs through all your training and all your preparation because you think of yourself in that position rather than just kind of randomly turning up on the line and saying, "Oh, this is what I want to do now." It's like no, it actually is years of manifestation.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's so true. The mental, the physical being so important, and so much goes into the physical, but it's the mental where things fall down. And
Mm-hmm.
I think as well, you kind of raise an interesting point there in terms of, would you say that the sport seems to have a culture of not necessarily fear of failure, but there is very much kind of, oh no, you don't want to say too loudly what you're aiming for. You don't want to be too vocal or too ambitious. But actually, everyone's training hard, everyone's putting in the effort. Why is it something that's so sort
Mm-hmm.
of taboo, or you should continue with a certain level of modesty, I suppose.
Mm-hmm.
Do you feel like
Because
that's
yeah, I definitely think that's like a female trait too, because I've definitely seen more women just kind of be afraid to really own their goals and to just set them forward rather than just saying like I want to stay healthy, because obviously that's always like an underlying goal. But then I think it's don't be afraid and don't feel embarrassed to say, oh, this is a time, and maybe someone will like think, oh, they really think they can do that. But it's like, well, then you show that person and you can show yourself, no, I actually am capable of it. And so yeah, that's I think I wish I'd realized that earlier in my career. And again, realizing that you only get one shot at all these things. Like always, I remember back in the day, I'd be like, "Oh, I'm still young, I'm still learning." But now I'm like, no, like if you want to make it in the sport, it's like each race is important. Like you've got to think of yourself, you're at your prime right now, because you never know what's going to happen, where you're going to race. So just yeah, again, having that agency and urgency in everything you do.
that's really interesting to hear. And I guess, would you say then that maybe in the past you were a little bit more relaxed with your attitude towards running and racing, and that's something that's changed more in recent years?
Yeah, I remember like English schools, everything when I was younger. I don't remember ever having a single goal. That sounds so terrible, but I remember never thinking, I think it was a goal of me. Like, I remember trying to make English schools, and I think that was, can't even remember now, top eight in your county. I remember that was a big goal, but I never really thought beyond that. And I remember one year, my coach at home saying, "Oh, yeah, I think you could make under 20 euros." And again, it didn't really stay in my mind because I thought, no, no, that's too far away. That'll never happen. And then it honestly felt like it happened by accident. Like it wasn't even planned. And then I made it. And then I just thought, oh, I'm here. It doesn't matter where I get. And I'm just frustrated because I'm like, you know what? Those championships when you're younger, and I would tell any junior athlete, is so important. Like if you medal at like an under 20 euros or a world cross, it honestly is life changing, and it sets you up. You get funding because obviously you show this amazing potential, and then that changes all your options. Whereas I think because I kind of took a while to gear up to it, and then it not that you kind of have less options now because you're a bit older, and then people are already established. So I think yeah, if I could tell any junior athlete is set those European races and those international races as like your top priority.
That's really interesting you raise those points. And I think, something really important to be discussed. And on the one hand, initial thoughts are that sometimes there is merit in not being too serious as a junior in terms of,
Hmm.
self-preservation, keeping the enjoyment of the sport, not overtraining. There's definitely that
Hmm.
school of thought. But then at the same time, there is that funding cycle. There is, especially the
Hmm.
way the sport's structured in the UK, is very much, once you break into a certain level, it kind of then snowball rolls
Hmm.
itself. So I guess reflecting back on things, do you think that you have benefited more or less overall from taking a slower approach through your junior years?
Hmm. Yeah, that's such an interesting point because I guess like I was at boarding school, so there was like a kind of a limit on how much training I could do. Like I made friends with this local mum, amazing woman called Helen Hind, and she'd pick me up from school and take me to the track and to like train with her son, which was so fun. But anyway, it's and then I never really remember like being pushed. I didn't really like I didn't have a watch or anything. It was kind of just randomly running. I was playing a lot of lacrosse, so I guess I was running a lot with that. So I guess looking back, it kind of sounds I don't know, hypocritical that I'm like, oh, focus on Euros, like put all your energy into that when I didn't. So maybe it is better just like to ease into it. I just see other people that kind of had more success younger and they have more support now. But I think, yeah, I can't get greedy and just think like, oh, all I need is support. Because at the end of the day, running is running. Like you can do it with no funding, all the funding. You can do it with training camps or no training camps. It's like if you want it, you can make it work regardless. Um, and I'm happy that I went to Colombia and I had a great time and I'm really happy with the degree I did and everything. So yeah, I guess I'm grateful for everything that led me here.
Yeah, no, of course, but definitely it's such an important point to raise. And,
Hmm.
again, there with sort of the funding and the opportunities that are available. Yes, like you say, you can do anything, anyone can do anything, anyone can achieve anything, absolutely. But it's at what cost? What do you have to give
Hmm.
up? And sometimes having that support can be that crutch that can make
Hmm.
it easier. Are there any things in particular that you think would have been useful to you at a younger
Hmm.
age or that you did
Hmm.
benefit from that you think really added value to your journey?
Mm. That's a great question. Um, I think yeah, I've never had a coach that's like I don't know, not giving me any autonomy. Like I've never just had somebody like you have to do this, and I don't have my parents aren't very interested in what I do, so I think I'm really grateful that yeah, I've always had autonomy in all my decisions, and I've always been able to like trust in like my own abilities and like my decisions. And I think that's really powerful because then you know that everything that's led you here is your choice. And then I feel like I'm doing this because I love it and not because someone else is forcing me to. So that's probably something I'm very grateful for. And I think, yeah, in general, I've had so many great friends to train with, which has made it so much easier. And I've made so many great friends from the sport. Like this summer, I did so badly at NCAs, and my motivation was like an all-time low. And I thought, oh, why not? I'll just do this race in Loughborough because maybe it will encourage me to do British champs. And I didn't want to do it. The morning of it, I was doing the shakeout, and I just thought, I'm running 8 minute pace, and I just hate this. And I think sometimes I just hated running during that time, and I went there, and then my cool down. I saw Philly Bowden, who's like honestly idol. I was like, she's so cool. So we were cooling down together, and then just cooling down with this girl called Neve Brown, and then we made friends, and she lived in Putney, and it was great. And then for the rest of the summer, we trained together, and that was honestly one of the highlights of my year because suddenly I realized this like amazing, lovely person was just down my road, and we could train together, and we're still such good friends. So it just shows you that this sport, like, it opens up so many doors that are so unexpected.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's great that you touched on that. It does give you sort of a network. It gives you a life outside from life. And yeah, it does open so many opportunities like this. And for you, would you
Mm.
say there was any turning point in particular? You took up a scholarship to the States. You talk about competing at the Europeans as an under 20
Hmm.
and that being something that maybe was a bit unexpected. When for
Hmm.
you did you kind of have that turning point that snapped you into, really wanting something more from running?
Yeah, I think it was definitely I committed to Colombia my like final year at school. So like at that point I wasn't good enough to receive any scholarships from any US unis. So I think looking back again, that's why maybe I'd tell a junior to get like a little bit more serious because if I'd been maybe like I don't know 5 seconds faster or which I know seems like a lot, but I think I wish I just had my times a little bit better, like maybe sub 10 in the 3K just something just so then I could have that funding because having to like pay for everything in the US, I've just been like, oh, I could have gone to a program and not have to worry about money and just been able to run. So I guess going back, yeah, but then again, I loved Colombia, so it's like I wouldn't take that back in a heartbeat. So I think, yeah, so when I committed to Colombia, I wasn't that serious about running, and then because of COVID, I took a gap year, and then decided just to I guess cycle around London. I was a elderly carer, so I really enjoyed that, and I would kind of squeeze my running in here and there everywhere. Again, was not a priority. I admit it was probably like fourth on my priority list. But I still love to run, but I guess I didn't have any goals. And then my coach, I went to Mexico and Costa Rica and worked on some farms. And then we just like run down motorways. And it was kind of crazy. I'd be like, how fast can I run each day? And it would just be like, okay, there and back. And then I just try to beat my time. And I didn't really train like any intervals or stuff like that. It was just running, and not recording mileage or anything like that. And then I got back and then I qualified for under 20 Euros, and it was just like, oh wow, this sounds really cocky, but like if it was that easy, then what more could I do? But then I guess you realize when you get to that point, it's like 1 second is so much extra effort, like 5 seconds, like all these different steps require so much more sacrifice or choice. Um, and so then after that, I realized, okay, if I want to be good, like I have to be more serious about this. Because there's no point just doing it half-heartedly. If you're going to do it, just give it your all.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, when something takes so much time and attention and energy, and there's so many, I guess, sacrifices
Mhm.
to some extent that have to be made, money is involved. You do have
Mhm.
to be fairly certain, or at least know that what you're getting out is giving you back what you expect from it at that time.
Mhm.
And there's a lot to unpack here. So I think firstly, it'd be interesting to talk about kind of having that experience, having that sort of disassociation from perhaps your normal life during this gap year, especially when you're out in South America, and also just by the sounds of it, training very intuitively, just listening to your body.
Mhm.
Do you want to talk us through how you think that impacted you both mentally and physically and led you to the point where you were able to have that kind of breakthrough as an under 20?
Mhm. Yeah, I guess I realized it was just how much pain can I experience, and then obviously because I've experienced that pain, then I can bring that to races. So it's kind of like in the heat, like I would just be kind of, I don't know, doing planks and press ups on the beach. Like, I was just kind of nuts, I guess. And then just I guess it's just my dad always talks about like stressing your body in different ways. Like it doesn't just have to be running. So I guess I was doing like a lot of like hiking. My friend and I went to like a nude hiking hostel, so that was funny for a few weeks. So just like crazy experiences that you wouldn't get to do in your everyday life. And then yeah, I guess. And then I was doing a lot of teaching, and obviously my elder carers. I was standing, and I was like very active throughout the day, and like a lot of the work was obviously quite like challenging and difficult, and like there was a lot of like emotional baggage that came with my job, and I just think like seeing I don't know helping people and just like learning about so many sectors of work that I'd never really experienced, I guess inspired me in so many ways. And I was like, well, these women they're carers for their whole life, like to feed their children and to live, and I'm just doing this for 1 year, and it's my like running and studying is like the easiest thing compared to what these women do. So I guess it just showed me like how difficult like life is for everyone, and how the easiest thing I control is just like how hard I run, and if that's the hardest thing in my life, then that's easy.
Yeah, that's such a great realization or reflection to have. And yeah, definitely something that I can see being really useful for motivating you and keeping that kind of love of running. And it sounds like balance is something that you're quite good at having in your life. Would you say that's still the
Mhm.
case to this day?
Yeah, definitely. I think I've had to make a lot of choices, and I've turned from being a yes woman to a no woman. So I feel like I have to say no to a lot of things. But now instead of saying no, I'll say, okay, like I can't come on the night out, but why don't we get like brunch after my long run? Or why don't you cycle with me while I run? And just like it sounds really bad, and again, this makes me very selfish. But I definitely try like fit my plans around my running. So I'll get back from a big meet and say we're away for 4 days. I'll just say to a friend, oh, like let's go to the cinema on Sunday night. So it's not like exerting too much energy, but then it's still a fun thing to do with friends. So I guess it's just like learning how that balance is best going to fit with my training. And now I do higher mileage, so I feel like an old man a lot of the time. I'm just kind of like walking around like sore legs. So I guess yeah, my friends understand that now, and I can adapt my life to that new lifestyle.
No, I think it's really interesting that you mentioned kind of the feeling of being selfish, because that definitely is something that honestly I think is required to be kind of your best athlete, especially in the context that we're in now. as a sport in terms of, there being so much out there, the stakes being so high. You could rank probably 100th in the country with a time that would have won you the 1930 Olympics. So I think it's good that you kind of acknowledge that, but also demonstrate how you can work with, meeting your needs from a running perspective, but also trying to accommodate that and adapt that to fit in with normal life best as possible.
Yeah,
And
for sure.
for you as well, you mentioned having sort of higher mileage now and stuff like that. Do you want to just give us sort of a general overview of what a typical training week looks like?
Yeah, honestly, I was just thinking about this at dinner tonight. But it's been the past few years I've honestly done very similar things. Like I've just kind of built up over time and like a Monday is just it's honestly like the most basic NCA program. So I'm sure to everyone it's quite boring, but it's just like a Monday easy run and strides and then like a Tuesday workout. Honestly, this cross country we did so much on the track. So it would be like, threshold Ks, the classic. And then I would do like some strength, like some circuit. And then Wednesday would be sorry, my friend's just ringing. Um, so Wednesday would be like a medium long run, so just like a steady state effort and some core. Thursday would be easy with a bit of circuit, and then Friday would be like the biggest workout of the week. So just some sort of intervals, like 800 something, and then Saturday elliptical, and then Sunday long run. And that's honestly been my life for the past 3.5 years. So I guess I'm excited to keep that going, and I've benefited so much from threshold. So I'm kind of intrigued to try double threshold. So that's something that maybe I'll get into now. I'm moving more towards the 10K. But yeah, just not trying to change too much, but just seeing where I can maybe do more doubles because yeah, sometimes it's hard when you're so busy with work and you're just like, oh, I'll just run the 11 miles all in one go, which is probably not a good idea.
No, it's really interesting to hear. Everyone's got different things that sort of work for them. And so, do you want to talk a bit more around kind of your experience with thresholds and for
Mhm.
you, why you think they add so much value?
Yeah, well, I honestly, not that I didn't believe in them because I know a lot of people benefit from them, but I never really did because I was like, I just like running as hard as I can all the time, which is like such a cliche, but it's just I don't know, I feel more confident. I can go into the race being like, oh, I've had all these hard workouts, but it's kind of like letting go of that ego and that pride side of things and just being like, okay, this is going to be a really easy workout, but it's going to benefit me in the long run. And amazing like coach Delaney who came from NAU and she was our new assistant coach this semester and she was amazing because she was just constantly telling me to slow down. She's like, no, easy, easy. And it was so great because then it meant the end of the season I was like, I felt incredible. Like I felt like I had a new body. I genuinely felt like I'd never experienced legs so fresh. Whereas usually I get to the end of the season and I'm just thinking like, oh, when will this be over? Like I feel so burnt out. So I'm so grateful that like this semester was a complete like life changer for me. And so I'm excited to build that into my next seasons. And I've learned so much from making that subtle change.
Oh, no, that's so exciting to hear. It's always great when you kind of unlock something or discover something like that. And yeah, it definitely seems that sometimes training a bit less hard or a bit less hard than maybe what was traditionally
Hmm.
pushed can be really beneficial. Is there anything else in particular? You mentioned how this semester's been quite key for you. Is there anything else that's kind of helped to build that situation?
Yeah, I guess like like managing stress as well, because I think I would get so stressed about schoolwork. And then it just reached a point where I was like, okay, you know what? Like I'm gonna, I guess, make friends with people in my class, like we can work on it together. As long as I think especially in the US, as long as you're keen and like I'm a bit of a try hard, like I go to office hours, I speak to the professor, it's like you'll get by and you'll get there and like you'll get there with the help of your friends. And so I think it was managing that and not being because I think I'll get so stressed about like a race and then I'll just pretend it's all like stress about like academics, but instead of just that's unnecessary stress and just basically bring that down and having people around you to remind you, okay, yeah, it's not that deep. Let's just watch a film. Let's just be silly and like do some yoga. So and that's been also a life changer. So this semester I was living with two girls who are on my team and then a girl on the archery team and then a girl who's like not on any team and that was lovely because we like I'd finish a long day and we'd all just sat in the kitchen just chatting. So that was great for me too.
Yeah, absolutely. Stress can take so much from a person, people,
Mhm.
or it can be really underestimated the toll it takes. And is there anything in particular other than, what you've mentioned that has been particularly key for you or any sort of realizations you can articulate?
Mhm. Um, I think realizing, yeah, what matters to you and realizing that like you only have so much energy in a day, so there's no point expending it on things that like don't really matter. And so I guess being able to let go of things like, oh, I got a shocking grade on that midterm or that assignment, and it's like, okay, on to the next. How am I not going to get a shocking grade in the next one? And I actually made friends with everyone. I always get made fun of for this, but there's like some old men that like basically live in the library with me, and there was like this row where we'd always sit, and that was like a great reminder because it was like these two blokes who were probably like 85 pushing 90, and they just had this love of learning. And I peer over and like these papers these men were reading, it was like a lot of American history that I like had no idea about, and it just reminded me that like, yeah, I'm here because I love to learn, and this is a choice. Like I could be, yeah, not going to school. I could have chosen like an easier degree or an easier school, but I love to learn, and I love like pushing myself. So I guess, yeah, it was fun like making friends with those guys, and again like having a different experience and just meeting people from across the university and not just fixating on running. And so I get back from a meet, and then we don't have to talk about it. We can just talk about what we're learning about or what my friend did that weekend. So again, it's that balance that's important to me.
Yeah, I was just going to say it really speaks to kind of the power of balance. And that's definitely something that you've got a strong hold on by the sounds of things. And it definitely highlights how important that is. And diversity as well. Like you say, 85-year-old men, everyone needs some people in a different age group in their life or from
Mhm.
a different background, because it really does help to put things in perspective. And so would you say that you're also quite good at looking at the bigger picture then overall, and would you say that's
Mhm.
something that you think benefits your running and just your sort of happiness in general?
Yeah, definitely. I think I love, it's a cliche, but I love like learning other people's stories and learning why people run and why people do what they do. And I think it's a reminder of this is just going to be me for the next, I guess, 5 to 10 years at most. And then my life rolls on. So I want to make sure that this isn't just like a blank spot where all I ever think about is running. There's definitely parts that I can like implement. And there's so many great examples of people that have had great running careers and also worked and been involved in other like social issues. So I think it's important to me, yeah, to stay like well informed, stay reading, listen to podcasts, and not just falling into the trap of just like, oh, let's just watch some running YouTube, because it's so easy just to be like, oh, this is like easy, but it's like challenging myself to like, listen to like the rest is politics, which is probably an easier politics podcast than most, but it's like conversational, and I get to like I listen to that when I'm showering or brushing my teeth, because obviously there's only so much time in the day. So again, it's about being kind of like efficient and using all that time to like make yourself better, I guess.
Time management definitely is a
Mhm.
is a game changer. And yeah, I love your approach. It sounds really positive and something that, yeah, it's just great really to have that kind of variety in your life in general. And I guess then as well, like another thing to sort of discuss around, have you ever felt kind of, especially, having just won the European champs,
Mhm.
having kind of made a few decisions in the past few years to put running in, maybe a bit higher up in your priorities list. Have you ever
Mhm.
felt any pressure to kind of, focus more on running, or have you ever felt your
Mhm.
environment start to runningify you or living with other runners? Has that
Mhm.
ever got to you?
Yeah, I think that's such an interesting question, and I think I'm admitting to like a deep dark emotion here, but I think envy and like kind of jealousy is such a toxic emotion. But I guess I see people that like, I used to run with when I was younger, or friends, and they're so successful and they've got deals or something, and I start thinking, oh, that's what I want, that's what I want. I'm like, no, if you got to like regain of like what are your goals and like how are you going to get there, and you can't just want something because someone else has it. Like that's not really going to drive you on, and that's not going to be like it's not going to give you longevity in the sport. So again, it's like reminding yourself, why do I do it, and how am I going to find my niche in this sport? um so I think, yeah, that's probably what I've had to like remind myself over the past few years when I'm making decisions. And then realizing again, it's like
Oh, sorry.
but it's like what's the way, there's many ways to like skin the cat, whatever the
Oh,
phrase is.
yes, yes. It's something with a
Yeah,
cat skin. Yeah, yeah. Skinning the cat. We got it.
something like that. So just like, yeah, basically just having belief in your journey. And I guess that was one thing my coach from home said after Euros. He was like, like just you're doing well, like you're doing great things. You don't need to make big changes now. Like don't think like suddenly, oh, you've won Europeans and now it's like whole new world. It's like just keep working, keep grinding, and with consistency, you'll just get better, hopefully.
Definitely, that's such a sensible approach and something that comes up time and time again, the power of consistency and the small changes that really add up in the long run. And yeah, I really respect your transparency there, sort of talking around jealousy and envy, because I think
Mm-hmm.
definitely, there are a lot of inequities in life in general, but within running as well. And I think in a sport that's so comparison based, and also just the way
Mm-hmm.
that modern life is, it's very
Mm-hmm.
easy to get caught up in those cycles. And actually taking it back to, would I be feeling any different if I didn't know what X was doing or what Y was doing? And being
Exactly.
comfortable and okay with that is such an important and valuable thing. So yeah, I think it's great you talk around that. And would you say that's something that you feel you've managed to fully kind of let go of, or do you feel like sometimes it still kind of bugs you a bit?
Yeah, I guess it still bugs me a bit because I'm always thinking like, what are the people that like I'm racing against are doing? Like, what are
Yeah,
they like? What are they? What's their workout? And it's like, well, no, like some people will under workout and then like race way above their fitness level. Or some people will like race like work out really well and then not race as well. So just knowing that like you know what, just do your own thing, push yourself, like have a few hard days, like bring your A game when you need to bring your A game, and then have easy days when you need to recover. And yeah, again, just not getting carried away with comparisons.
definitely. It's such a powerful message. And especially when everyone's so individual and unique. And like you say, you don't know if people are overdoing it or underdoing it. Maybe
Hmm.
every single Olympian's doing it wrong and we're all looking up to them and everyone's doing everything the same way. And
Hmm.
who knows?
Hmm.
Okay, and so we've spoken more broadly around kind of more things mindset, what you've kind of realized, some of your values and reflections in general. But let's kind of peel things back to the start and walk through kind of your early years, how you got into running, and touch on then your experience out in the States and some of your general reflections around that. So, first things first, how did you even end up running?
Yeah, I think like most runners, I started with doing other sports, and I remember played a lot of tennis growing up because I live in like a very tennis hub in London. So I was always thinking like, oh, I want to be a professional tennis player. And I remember like one of our sessions each week, we were next to Andy Murray. So I remember just seeing him and his dedication and like his balls would roll onto my court. And I'd be, oh, I'm so excited. And I'd go to tournaments every weekend. And then I went to boarding school, and then like tennis didn't really work out because it wasn't really going to work with boarding school. And then I was like, oh, I want to try athletics. And they were like, well, you've never done it before, so get lost. And so then I kind of didn't really get involved, and I did lacrosse. And then I used to cry because I was not in the A team, and I thought I'm such a failure. I just want to be in the A team. And then I wish someone had told me earlier. I was just really, really bad at lacrosse. I think the only thing I could do was run. I couldn't make decisions. I was a mess. I just chuck it, and I just was terrible. And then I ended up like getting involved with Scotland lacrosse, which was so much fun. But I kind of realized I loved the fitness test that they did, and then that's when I was like, yeah, maybe running is for me. So then we do like school cross country, and I used to just love it. Like he's just everyone would like hide in the woods or like walk, and I was just like, no, I just want to keep running. And again, I wasn't the best at the beginning. Like I loved it, and then I used to I guess run out of school and go to like Hewington Park and just run about in High Wycombe. So again, a lot of it was just like self motivated. Like all of it was just because I enjoyed the action of doing it, and I don't think I've ever. Honestly, I don't think I've ever like woken up and thought I don't want to run. And I guess I said after NCAs I was really demotivated, but I always knew that like a run would make me feel better. So yeah, I've always just loved it from the beginning.
Oh, that's such a lovely way to get into it. And yeah, definitely when you are enjoying the fitness test, I think that's very clearly one of these sports players is not like the others, definitely
Yeah.
a distance runner or an endurance athlete right there. And I guess then how did things evolve and escalate?
Hmm. Honestly, I'm so grateful because I had such great like setup in like Windsor, Slough, and Hounslow. So I just turn up to the workouts, and then I guess we call them sessions in the UK, but workouts in the US. And then I guess I was just like improving. Again, did not have any crazy goals. Just chose Colombia because I thought it was like the best academic school I could get into, and I thought it's a little bit devious, but I thought, if this is too, I remember asking so many girls this, like, how many hours a day is the commitment? And then someone telling me, oh, it's like having a part-time job, and I was like, oh, I don't want that. So I thought, okay, I'll get to Colombia, and then I can always quit if I wanted to, because I wasn't tied down by a scholarship or anything. So I kind of liked having that autonomy and freedom. And then lo and behold, I had my gap year and then realized I love running. And then from there, I just arrived at Colombia and just loved it more and more, like every season.
Okay, no, that's really interesting to hear. And yeah, I think sometimes when you have another focus, like in your instance, initially there was quite a lot of academic motivation there. I guess it can take off some of that pressure. And so the setup for you going out there, were you not on a scholarship, is that correct? Or did that change
Yeah.
at any point?
Yeah, I never received like any money, and honestly, I've never received any money from the sport, and so that makes me a bit spiteful because I'm like, oh, I give so much, but it's like, no, I give so much because I love it and the people I've met, and it's a lot more than money, and hopefully one day my performances and my running can speak for itself, and hopefully receive support from like a brand that I'm aligned with.
That's really interesting to hear, especially with the success you've had, because yes, you've kind of come into the limelight on the UK scene very much with the European champs, but the truth is, the past few years, you've been right up there at that level, consistently performing really, really
Mhm.
well. And I think it definitely speaks to kind of the maybe narrowness sometimes in terms of how the funding structure goes, talent identification, sponsorship opportunities, and yeah, where things are headed in that direction. For you, what would be kind of the ideal form or arrangement in terms of support or sponsorship, and what kind of things would you be looking for in a brand that you'd like to work with?
Yeah, I think at the moment, obviously, it'd be ideal to get an NIL deal because obviously they can get like reassessed once your NCAA eligibility is over, and I think that would just be amazing to like represent a brand while I'm in college. But I guess I'm reminding myself that obviously I have a lot of sustainability values, so I need to make sure that I can work closely with like the sustainability team of that brand and like hear about what they're doing. And I'm involved with Ecoathletes just recently, and that's basically just like a network of athletes from across the NCAA who also sustainability aligned, and I'm interested in moving forward with helping to organize the like world road running championships, which are in September in San Diego. So I've recently like connected with a woman that's heading out the sustainability there. So I'm excited to like be in that intersection between sustainability and running because obviously it's such like a single use sport. It's like trainers are a month, chuck them in the bin, like fast fashion, these clothes like that are being made in like Vietnam. So I definitely am like looking for a niche where I can find a running brand that has like sustainable like right at its core rather than just as like a greenwashing statement that they make.
No, I think that's really great you touch on that, and great to see you kind of embodying and embracing your values and staying true to them. Because yeah, it can definitely be hard to sort of turn to things that, maybe are more appealing in the short term. And have you had
Mhm.
any brands approach you at all or anything like that?
Yeah, I thought like after Euros, like a lot of people said, "Oh, your life's about to change. Like so many options going to open up," and honestly, that hasn't been the case. So I guess that's just made me even more eager to get back to training and to kind of prove myself on the senior level. And I think I thought I could navigate it on my own, and then I realized, okay, maybe I'll join an agency. So I've joined Forte for my NAL agreement. So I'm hoping that leads to something at some point. But again, it's just great to like meet people in the industry, and all the agents I spoke to were all really supportive, and they're all so well connected with coaches and brands. So there's definitely so many options, and that's the you reach this point in life, and I think everyone does our age where it kind of feels like a tree, and you're like, oh, I could go down all these different branches. Like this one thing could then lead to another thing. So I'm trying to just explore each option, and I'm not jumping into anything too soon because I'm excited to see again who the training partners would be, where people are going to be training. So yeah, I'm just going to enjoy my last year in the NCA and just keep options open.
Definitely. There's, yeah, almost too many options in life. I think there's a famous study from maybe Harvard or it might be Stanford with the jams. And when they put out 40 jams on a table versus when they put out five jams on a table at a market stall, sales were up
Mhm.
like something crazy, like a few thousand
Mhm.
percent with only
Mhm.
the five, because it can be so overwhelming and
Mhm.
cause so much regret and looking back when there's too much choice available. And can you talk us through what the deal situation is and talk around
Mhm.
what that means? And also if you've had any support or anything from sort of British Athletics or Team GB following on from your
Mhm.
race?
Yeah, I've had no like yeah, nothing from British Athletics or anything. I'm on the like England Athletics like talent pathway. And that was from I think last summer. But I haven't really looked into what support that can offer because I think I thought I was based in the US and they can only offer support when you're in the UK, which is obviously at the moment not very often. But in terms of the deal, yeah, I think so. I signed with Forte for like an NIL agreement, and that basically allows them to talk to brands for me, and that gives them the permission to talk to. And I obviously, my biggest goal I think is to run for Hoka, because I think the like team that I've spoken to, like everyone I've spoken to in like the Elite group in Flagstaff, just been so lovely and supportive. So that's probably like my top goal, and they've seemed like the brand that's been the most interested. Um, but yeah, I think I was trying to like kind of cold call and send emails, and I've just received absolutely nothing. So it just shows you that like cross country is fun and it's great, and it's great build for track. But I think track is the one that you can really like wow people, and you have good times and race well at championship level, which honestly I've never done. So I need to make sure that my training now is geared towards that championship racing. And I'm not just like a time trialer who just like appears and sometimes runs fast times. Like at championships, racing is the most important.
Gosh, no, it's really interesting. It's like you think you get somewhere and something would happen, but then there's something else. And has that come with any additional pressure that you've placed on yourself?
Yeah, definitely. I think it's like thinking it's okay, this is gonna sound so cocky, but like if I can get to that point with the work I'm doing now, like I just think, oh, well, if I work harder, like where can I go from here? So again, it's about working patiently, and I'm not gonna be greedy and just jump straight there, but I know that with more hard work I can be more successful on the track. And I'm just I'm excited to get that hard work underway. And that's why it's hard, because then you have like your best race, and then it's like, okay, well now off time. I'm like, yep, I just want to get back to it. So soon.
Yeah, definitely. Patience really is a virtue. And yeah, you can never go too quick with these things. You've got options, you've got the talent, the talent's there. That's not going to leave you. So yeah, hopefully things will kind of come into practice soon, or something will come through in that respect. But yeah, it's definitely really interesting to kind of hear that's the situation that you're currently in. And so then in terms of just NCAA in general, your experience there and where you're heading to next, do you want to talk us through maybe what you think's been most valuable about being in the NCAA system, what's been most
Mhm.
unexpected, and also what's been most challenging?
Hmm. I think to start off with the most challenging, which I probably should have been more prepared for or like known more about, but just the amount of racing. Like I feel like with English schools and just nationals, like I think I would race like maybe twice or like nothing. I just remember, or even if I did show up to a race, you wouldn't really take it seriously. You'd only have like one or two serious races a year. And then suddenly it's like every weekend you have to perform. And I don't know, I feel like in a race week, my character kind of changes because I'm thinking, okay, got to make sure I get my 9.5 hours tonight. Like I've got to make sure I'm doing everything right this week. And so it felt like I was like more tense for like a lot of my university's career. So I wish I could go back and kind of tell myself like, okay, like the biggest races of the year is like this month, and like before then the races are important, but they don't mean everything. And I've had seasons where I've had like shocking races at the beginning, and then by the end I was fine, or the other way around. So I guess I would just tell a younger athlete like just be ready for the like amount of racing, and just to like keep the emotions really level. And I remember a teammate telling me like don't make the highs too high or the lows too low. Just got to keep stable. But yeah, and I think the best thing about the NCAA again is like the competitive races. Always around incredible athletes all the time. And then I think what was the other one?
Most
Yeah, I guess the biggest
unexpected.
most unexpected. Yeah, I think that was also crazy how connected like all the coaches are from all the different schools, and how it's like this massive network of running, and it's like massive. And so sometimes I think that could get a bit all consuming, and you sometimes just have to detach yourself and be like, okay, no, I love to run for the pure form of running. Like all this baggage around it is just like stuff that's going to slow you down. So I think if you get back from like a big race and like you've been traveling for like 7 days and all you've spoken about is running, 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 just tell yourself like, okay, I'm gonna have a weekend where no one's gonna ask me about it. I'm gonna do something fun in New York, and then be like get back to business on Monday, and giving yourself that grace.
Yeah, no, definitely. That's so true and so important. And yeah, something that everyone can probably take a bit of learning from. And then overall, kind of looking back on your running career to this point, I know how you mentioned after NCAs you were in a bit of a spot. For you, what's been the most challenging time with running, or the most challenging times that you faced, and how have you moved beyond them?
Mhm. Yeah, it's always funny because in the time it feels like so
Mm.
serious. You're like, this is awful, and then like in hindsight, you just laugh at yourself, and you're like, that was so silly. Like my sophomore year, I like went to South Africa in like August, and I just remember getting back from runs and just like lying on the floor and feeling awful. But like classically, me, I just kind of trained through it. I was just running like 65 miles a week and just whatever. And then I got back to school and they were like, oh, we should probably like test you for some things. And then I just kept running. So I was like, no, it's just really weird. And I was just like tempoing at like 7 minute per mile pace. Like it was just really, really bad. And then they tested me for mono. It came back fine. So I just kept racing. And then I looked at the form and it actually came back positive. And we'd misread the sheets. I'd been running with glandular fever for like a good few months. And then I kind of had an IT band injury and then my shin started hurting. And I was just, I guess, I wish I'd just taken a step back and be like, Phoebe, your body's telling you something, just slow down. Because instead, I just kept fighting through it. And that whole year genuinely was just a disaster because then I wanted to make NCAs outdoor and then again a sob story, but I got like a stupid peritonsillar abscess, and I had amazing friends that helped me through it, but it was quite dramatic because I didn't realize how sick I was, and then I got like sepsis, and
Oh
then
my
it was
gosh.
all a bit of a disaster. And anyway. I had great friends like Nikki who literally came to hospital with me and like held my hand, and I was in the ER, and then I went to regionals and I missed nationals by like a lean. I got like out leaned because I like collapsed in the last 100 meters. And then again, I was like, you know what, Phoebe, like no one should feel sorry for you. Like you've made so many stupid decisions that have led to this point. Like I went on holiday with friends like a week before then, like the biggest race of the season, which is always fun, but like it wasn't preparing me to run my best at regionals. And all I had to do was wait a few more weeks till like after nationals that I made it to have that holiday with my friends. So again, it was just kind of realizing like wake up, like you need to take this more seriously. Or you're gonna have a like chaotic year like that. And then I think my junior year was when I kind of like hit the ground running and was more committed and then was all American in cross country. And then I think from there on I was like, okay, yeah, no more stupid decisions.
Gosh, I mean, that's something quite dramatic to drop near the end of a podcast episode. I
Yeah.
have to say, gosh, that sounds like one hell of a year in a very literal respect. But I
But now I
think,
just laugh because it was just so much stupidity. I can't believe it.
gosh, no, I mean, everyone's got to learn, and I think, in one way, you demonstrate kind of having balance in your life. You could say it's determination, commitment, resilience. On the flip
Hmm.
side, you could say, yeah, to some extent, maybe it is a bit of stupidity, but what you
Hmm.
demonstrate is a great level of accountability and self-awareness, which are really key traits for any good athlete. And also, yeah, it's important to go through these experiences because sometimes you need to lose something to know that it's
Hmm.
important. And I'm sure that there were things you gained from going through that tough time that have benefited you since.
Hmm. Exactly. Yeah, it's definitely the smack in the face that I needed. But
Yeah.
yeah.
Gosh, wow, no, that yeah, definitely does sound really tough. And yeah, so I guess getting a bit conscious of time here, do you want to just run us through kind of your plans for the next year university wise, and then we'll close off with
Hmm.
some kind of female discussion and listener questions.
Hmm. Yeah, I think at the moment I'm just talking to different coaches to decide for my masters in August. So I'm excited to do my visits in probably March. So I'll get to experience all the different programs. And I'm excited for that. And then I think I'm going to try and do some training in Flagstaff. So I want to just basically treat these next few months of just committing to running, like meeting great other runners. And again, like I graduated a semester early, so I feel like I don't want to miss out on this on taking interesting classes. So I want to keep reading. Maybe I'll take some online courses again, prepare for my masters. Maybe reach out to some professors that I could maybe work with at whatever program I start with. And already, so many programs are interested in setting me up with professors, so I have a lot of calls planned for that. And that's really exciting. And then obviously working with Ecoathletes. So I'm just trying to keep myself busy and just enjoy traveling.
No, that's really cool. And yeah, it'll be really exciting, I guess, to see what it's like to give running kind of the full attention that you perhaps haven't been able to this point. And what subject is it that you'd be looking to kind of study?
Yeah, so I'm interested in environmental science, and I've always been interested in the water industry and working in environmental management. Um, so that is the long-term goal. So I guess is reading interesting works and meeting professors in that industry.
No, that's really cool. And moving on to kind of the female side of things, I wanted to pick up on a point you made earlier that I think
Hmm.
we've not spoken about before on this podcast, but is actually a really interesting and kind of different lens to look at things through. You mentioned around kind of females maybe being a bit less forward in maybe fully stating their ambitions and
Hmm.
maybe expressing kind of competitiveness and confidence in an outward manner. And yeah, definitely it can be a lot more sort of internal or silent. In general, what do you think maybe are some of the factors that have led us as sort of society, as kind of running
Mhm.
community to that point? And do you think that there's any ways in which things could change in the future?
Mhm. Yeah, honestly, I feel very grateful, and I don't know if people agree with this, but personally, I don't feel like I've ever really been like discriminated in the sport. Like I always feel like it's been a very level playing field. And obviously that's just like a personal experience, and I'm sure like there's a lot of women that have experienced discrimination. And I guess I could say on different levels, but I've experienced, comments from like men about like body type and comments about like different girls eating, which I never think is like a man's problem. And I don't think like men should be talking about women's bodies in the sport, especially when you hear commentators talk about it. It's just like there's so many more interesting things you could be discussing than like women's appearances. But I think as a whole, our sport like does have good representation between the two. And I think, but what has led to this? I guess I think like it's unfair how growing up we all learn like hockey or we get taught we have to do gymnastics, whereas we never got like taught football or we never get taught like rugby at a young age. So I guess it's just I wish we had been open to all these different sports from a young age. But what's great about running is like yeah, both sexes can do it, and I've always felt very supported, and I've had great like male training partners that have never been like embarrassed to like run with a woman, or it's never been like me having to like prove myself to a man. So I think I've been really really lucky to have such training partners, good training partners like male and female throughout the years.
Yeah, no, definitely that's great to hear. And yeah, for sure. I know I spent most of my school PE lessons doing cheerleading and gymnastics because, I mean, on the one hand, it's one of the only things that a lot of girls would want to take part in. Do you think there's anything you can think of that kind of puts so many girls off engaging in
Mm-hmm.
sports that are more intense?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think a lot of people have probably discussed this before on the podcast, and I've listened to a few episodes that people have mentioned this. But there's that period in school where just before A levels, people then your body changes, you've gone through puberty, and then like maybe like running is more difficult because sometimes obviously puberty can like lead to like a little bit of weight gain, and then you're kind of getting used to running with your like new body. And I think it's just like telling women that's okay and like you can find strength in this like new body that you have, and it's not like new in a bad way or like new in a good way. It's just like different, and you're developing and your hormones are changing. But I think it's just having a coach and like supportive family and friends around you to tell you that like no, it's okay that like your body shape has changed. Like that is just like part of being a woman, and that's what's amazing about being a woman. So um yeah, I guess it's a shame that at that point in at school, like I feel like there's suddenly such a drop off where you suddenly see way less people involved in the sport. And then, and I guess I don't know, people are just like embarrassed to be like worse. And it's like, well, no, sometimes you need to have a year that's like you regress and then you're going to get better eventually.
Absolutely, definitely. Sometimes it's one step back for two steps
Hmm.
forwards. And for sure, it definitely is something. I think the sport is changing a bit more. I think the start lines are looking a lot more diverse in terms of kind of women's bodies and body shapes and body types. But yeah, for sure, it definitely is a change that women go through. And I think compared to men, I think there's a greater variety of bodies that can produce the same performance. Whereas I
Hmm.
think in men that range is somewhat narrower. I don't know if you'd agree.
Hmm. Yeah, I definitely agree. Like I think it's very empowering, like being with different like women of like, all different shapes and sizes, and you're like, we all get there and we all get there in the same time. And I just wonder like because all the men they usually look the same, and
Yeah.
I feel like there's a lot of cases of like eating disorders in men that don't get spoken about because I think they all think they need to fit into this one type. So yeah, hopefully that can be addressed more into the future. And I think there's definitely more talk with like Red S in men as well recently.
Yeah, definitely, absolutely. It's kind of a double-edged sword there. Sometimes it can be, yeah, harder for maybe men to speak up. Whereas I guess with women now it's becoming a topic that's more talked about and more expected
Hmm.
that hopefully it is becoming easier, but definitely
Hmm.
doesn't make it any less severe or less of a problem. And I've just kind of loaded up the listener questions. So yeah, if we just sort of whiz through these and wrap things up with them, I think. So first up, we've got a question around what is the Ecoathlete team?
Yeah, I think I spoke about that briefly, but it's just like a team of athletes across the NCAA that are like environmentally minded. And it's I guess it's like a kind of networking platform, and I'm excited to work with the head like Lou a bit more. And there's definitely, we have a lot of like set up calls with leaders in the industry, and it's basically just like connecting us with people that like of areas of sustainability that we're focused on. But I'm definitely at the like very initial stages of it, so I'm excited to get more involved when I have more time now over the next few months.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, keep us posted with that, and definitely does sound really exciting. We've then also got one around, have you ever experienced burnout whilst in the US? I know we've kind of touched around this, so yeah, feel free to summarize with all of these.
Yeah. So I guess I spoke about burnout, but yeah, I've experienced a lot of burnout at like the end of long seasons. So I guess it's learning about like holding back in training, and I think a lot of that is I blame myself, and I wish I'd learned earlier. But again, you can spin it and you can frame it and say, yeah, I'm driven, like I'm determined, but sometimes it can be to my detriment. So yeah, just basically just know your limits and kind of be careful of overtraining, I'd say. And there's that quote from the Dina Castor book that's like, there's no such thing as overtraining, it's just under resting and under recovering.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. No such thing as overtraining, just under resting and under recovering. And yeah, absolutely. Our greatest strengths are often our greatest weaknesses.
Hmm.
Did you find the US system took any of the joy out the sport for you from an athlete who's looking to go out?
Mm. I definitely not. Like, I think a lot of that is like ingrained, and if you like love it, you can make it work regardless. That's what I've always experienced. I think in the first year I was there, I was thinking, oh, I could be somewhere else. I could be back in the UK. Da, da. And then you realize, like, no, it's so within, and you can. I had amazing teammates and so many friends that like uplifted me, and I traveled to so many cool states, and I had so many fun experiences. So yeah, it's definitely like a personal decision. I know some people think like they hear horror stories about the US, but I'm like, I think if you do your visits and you gel with the team and you get on, you can trust the coach, then I think go for it. Whereas I think if you're in the UK and you're maybe not at somewhere like Birmingham, then a lot of it is kind of going to be on your own, and it's going to take actually even more self-discipline and motivation. Whereas in the US, you can kind of, you're part of this team, so you kind of fall into line and you get involved straight away.
Definitely, no, that's great to hear. And yeah, for sure, team and people can be an absolute game changer. We've then got one in terms of how did you find the transition from the UK to the US?
Yeah, I touched on this briefly, but it was definitely a big jump in mileage. So I guess I was like a risk of injury there, but I was very grateful to not get any injury. But yeah, again, level of racing, more mileage, again, lots more scheduled practices. You're practicing every day, scheduled. Whereas before it was kind of like, you rock up like twice a week after school. So again, it felt more like it was like a class, like it was like you turn up, you have your hours. So yeah, just being ready for that like high level of commitment.
Yeah, well, heard it from Phoebe herself there. We've then also got, have you ever struggled with red S underfueling or a negative body image?
Yeah, it's a great question, and I think it's important that athletes like talk about this and going through. And I think I've been grateful to not have like experienced much of that, and I think I've been always around like great supportive woman, and I think it's about just like kind of instilling like healthy habits into your life. And I think what we do, like, which is great at Colombia, is we like go to lunch straight after practice, so everyone's just kind of, we fuel straight away after we run. And I've always felt, yeah, very like comfortable like talking to my friends if I've ever had like a negative image, or I think like, oh, like maybe I'm putting on weight and I'm realizing like, oh no, it's okay, like I'm just I don't know, my body's changing, I'm growing up. And I think, yeah, I went to like an all girls school, and I never found that I had like a toxic image about my body. I guess I just realized that like I was just feeling myself for my training. Like my training kind of does the job for my body, and then like the food I'm putting in is just to like support myself doing that. So if one day I need to eat like, I don't know, 7 pieces of bread, like so be it, because that's what's going to give me energy the next day for my long run. So yeah, I'm grateful for just the great people around me that have like reminded me of all these messages too.
No, it's great to hear that you've had that support around you, and yeah, you've got a positive situation going on with everything there. And we've got another one in terms of just sort of general advice for young athletes thinking about studying in the States.
Yeah, that's, I think maybe I don't know if I'm allowed to say this like on podcast, and I
We can
won't.
remove it if it's not okay.
Yeah. Well, I just think, I don't know, honestly, I don't, if I was a younger athlete, I wouldn't sign with an agent for like a recruiting agency, because I just think it's so expensive. And I think a lot of it, especially with our sport, maybe for different sports, like I think maybe an agent's important, but you just have your times, you have your positions, and you can just email these coaches. The emails are all online. So I wouldn't pay the like 3 grand or whatever it is to sign with an agency. Just go straight to those coaches. And again, Americans love potential, and you've got to honestly. It's going to sound crazy, but the subject line's got to be like national qualifier. Like you've got to make every achievement sound like 100 times better than it is, because Brits like love to like play down their achievements. So just make sure the email's very ballsy, and you tell them like, well, this is how I'm gonna like perform in your team. This is how I'm gonna make your team like an NCAA qualifier, and then talk about like the girls that you'd love to train with on their team and like the course that you want to do. Just like make sure you show that you've done your research, and then yeah, don't bother with the agencies.
Right, no, top tip there for anyone who is thinking about it
Yeah.
and looking into that there. And yeah, for sure, remember, you're amazing, you will be amazing, you are amazing, you're always amazing.
Mhm.
And there you go, get that in an email. And then finally, we've got one around advice for athletes coming back from a serious injury.
Oh, okay, that's an interesting one. I think I've never had one that's like taken me out longer than like 2, 3 weeks.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
Yeah, but I think I've honestly I've been around like some friends that have had experience with more serious injuries, and this is like such a brutal way to put it. And but my friend Nikki, who now runs at Villanova, we were once cross training together, and I was just complaining. I was like, "This is so depressing. I hate cross training." I was just like being such a pain, and she's amazing because she puts up with all of it. And she was like, "Well, Phoebe, you're not dead," and I'm like, "It's true. You know, do what you can right now. Like you're still alive. You're still like working your heart rate. You can work your heart rate in so many ways, like cross training the pool, the bike, the elliptical. And if you want it enough, like you'll make it work and you'll get back fast. And it's just like again, like listening to your body, like you just indulge, like look after yourself and rebuild those bones, and then you'll be back stronger than ever.
Yeah, I love how the first thing is kind of bones, and that is such a, I guess, a common injury that so many people
Hmm.
have. But yeah, always look after yourself. And yeah, final two questions from me, just quick answers. Whatever comes to mind. What motivates you?
Improvement. I think that's
Improvement.
just the most satisfying. Satisfying.
Unfortunately, the connection cut out at this point, so this is the end of the episode. Bit of an abrupt finish, but we got through everything we wanted to, and hope you guys enjoyed. So that's it for today. Thanks for listening. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. If you did, be sure to rate, subscribe, and leave a review. This really helps to get the content out there. And I want to make this podcast the best possible for you. So go follow Fitter, Faster, Happier on Instagram. That's Fitter, Faster, Happier to leave your questions, comments, and feedback, and for updates and guest requests. All the best for the week ahead, guys. Run happy, live happy, be happy.